There's no question our bodies were designed to move, and David Shadlock, who is a personal trainer, is here to remind us of that.
Just after Louise's amazing story, I just want to change the energy a little bit, so go with me with this. So, Chippy Norton, are we well?
Yes!
Chippy Norton, are we well?
Yes!
Thank you. Yes, my name is David, and I help people change their lives through exercise, nutritional and lifestyle coaching. But today I really want to talk to you about exercise specifically, okay, and more importantly, how we can move our body to enjoy the activities that we enjoy every day with our family and our friends. But more importantly, how we can move our body in a way to be pain-free, ultimately. So I'm going to give you 3 golden rules today about your exercise and which you can implement into your lifestyle and into your regime to have a positive influence so you can carry on enjoying your life. I also want to talk about your language. What we tell ourselves every single day has an effect on our behaviour and our actions ultimately. And the last thing I want to talk about, if I get time, is how we're going to measure success, ultimately. That is important. But just a little bit about me. I've always loved sport. From playing football with my mates, sharing experience, going and win awards, to now playing tennis with my partner, going to play rugby with my mates, having a bit of a laugh, going and having a drink afterwards. Actually, what I enjoy about sport is the socialising aspect about it. And we forget that socialising is a major, major importance to our well-being and health. So for me, to make the most out of what I enjoy, and to make the most out of my experience with my friends, actually exercise is really important. Exercise is painful, it's uncomfortable, it's not very pleasant, and there's many reasons why we don't do it. But I know if I exercise, I'm going to get the most out of what I enjoy. Hasn't always been the case. When I first left university, I was working for 40 hours a week. I was working in a bank. It was a pretty soulless job for me. I was sluggish, I was bored, and just really unmotivated. So I knew that I had to get back to basics. And what was important to me was actually just being healthy and happy and doing the stuff that I enjoy. Everything else is pretty much secondary, isn't it, really? If we're healthy and happy, then ultimately we're going to live much more content lives. So let's go back to those 3 golden rules, okay? I just want you to sort of picture someone in your head. I'm just going to use an example of an accountant. You know, really successful guy, maybe runs his own business, maybe got 2 children, very lovely home. He sits there all day at his work, doing his doing what accountants do best. Doing what accountants do best, and that's pretty much avoiding the tax man, isn't it? He might then go and drive to a client, and then at the weekend, he hasn't done any exercise, so guess what he does? He goes on his bike for 8 hours doing his exercise because he needs to fit that in. And then when he gets the chance to see his family, he goes back to his office, he does his 40 hours, 50 hours, drives to clients, then gets back on his bike, just 8 hours of cycling, and before you know it, he doesn't know why he's got a bad neck, a bad back. He doesn't really know why he's getting these aches and pains. He does his exercise, and he's just doing what he does normally. So my first rule is to make sure that we move all our joints through their full range of movements. It's really important that we make sure that we continue to exercise our joints through their full range of movement. I want you to meet Bertie the baby. It's a great example that we've all had this ability to sort of do what Bertie does. Sits down in the mud, looks at worms, plays with his mud, doesn't have a care in the world. Fantastic. But as lifestyle has changed, and ultimately what we have to do with going to work, you know, and everything else, our body adapts. And we ultimately find it harder to be able to mobilise our body so that we can enjoy simple things like mud and worms. So rule number 1 is move our joints for their full range of movement. It's very simple. So I just want to pose a question to you. Who thinks exercise makes them fitter, healthier, stronger? Show of hands. You're absolutely right, it does. Fantastic, yeah. It wasn't a test, but you're all right. But there's one secret ingredient that we're all missing. And I think a lot of our talkers have spoken about it today, and that's recovery. As we exercise, we don't actually get stronger, healthier and fitter. We get weaker, we get tired. And with the right nutrition and the right recovery, we get fitter and stronger. And as we exercise again, we get weaker, more fatigued, tired, and ultimately we recover. And over a long period of time, we generally become fitter, healthier and stronger. But you need to add that really important item of recovery. This is what it looks like. This is what we're talking about. We exercise, we get tired, we recover, we exercise again, and before you know it, we get this cascade in the right direction with our health and well-being and our fitness. Far too often, people come to me sometimes in quite a desperate state actually, and they just don't know where to really start. So they go, I just don't feel great about myself, so what can we do? So I'm going to go exercising every single day. Fantastic. I was like, when's the last time you exercised? Oh, about 3-4 years ago. So you're going to go exercising every day. What about that first and most important ingredient of recovery? Let's get that sorted first, and then we can exercise around that. But not all of us here want to be the next athlete. We're not going to be doing sports day next week or anything like that, and you might not have any desire. So actually for a lot of us, it's important that we exercise, okay, maybe just to maintain our health and our ability to enjoy the activities that we do. And that is absolutely fine. There's no problems with that. So you see this sort of effect. I know there's a cross at the top, but if that is your goal, actually, your exercise may be just a little bit less frequent, and your recovery might be a little bit longer. That's absolutely fine. But what happens when we don't recover, or the intensity of the exercise that we're doing is too intense for us, and we're just not able to sustain that intensity? Well, you get this inappropriate, overload, and we have a negative effect to our health and well-being. So going out and starting a new regime at 100 miles an hour, starting a marathon tomorrow is not the best idea. And ultimately, we need to make sure that we give ourselves, that we exercise, but allow ourselves to have recovery. So that's my second golden rule. First golden rule, move your joints for their full range of movement. Second rule is overload the body. We talked about acute inflammation that can be caused through exercise. It's slightly uncomfortable. It slightly doesn't feel great, but ultimately a little bit of pain actually goes a long way if we add the right nutrition and the right recovery to it. And my third and final, most important golden rule of them all, consistency. Whatever you're doing in your life, whether it's running a business, whether it's changing your nutrition, whether it's changing your exercise, or whatever your pledge is today, think about the consistency and how we're going to achieve that consistency. So let's just recap. 3 golden rules. Number 1, move all your joints for the full range of movement. Number 2, overload the body. Make sure we get the appropriate recovery. And number 3, consistency. Make sure whatever you start, it may not be perfect, but if we carry on being consistent, we will achieve our goals sooner or later. So I just want to quickly touch on the pledge that Nick's wanting you to do today. Fantastic opportunities for you to really take ownership of your lifestyle and make a difference to you. But ultimately, like I said, a lot of people come to me in desperate needs, and they come up with a pledge very similar to this. I want to lose weight, I'm going to run every day until I lose 1 stone. Well, we've just gone through the 3 golden rules of your exercise. We know number 1, running is a fantastic activity. We should go running. Cycling, fantastic, it's really, really good. Any other activities like gardening maybe, but do they allow us to go through the full range of movement for our joints? Sometimes it does, sometimes it don't. Running every single day, ultimately, excuse me, running every single day, ultimately, if they're not ready, it's just going to make sure they get into a point where they've got no return, and ultimately they're going to get too tired and not be able to recover, and the consistency will go, ultimately. So when someone comes up to me and they go, they say something along these lines, and I want to lose weight, I'm going to run every day until I lose 1 stone, I just ask them a very simple question: why? Why? It's the most important question. Just ask yourself why. If you've made a pledge today, ask yourself why. Well, a lot of these things come up. I just want to feel better, I want to look better, I want to have more confidence, just ultimately want to have more energy. That's what it's about. So I always go, okay, so your goal isn't to lose weight then, is it really? Ultimately, you want to look better, you want to feel better, you want to have more confidence, and you want to have more energy so you can enjoy your days. But sometimes we don't always use the right words to be able to continue our behaviour. So very commonly, a lot of people, and I do it myself, I really need to go exercise. I really should eat better. It sounds like almost it's not achievable, or ultimately I feel like I have to. So like my mum's telling me off or something. These words aren't helpful. So I always try and encourage people to use the right words and think about their language, because ultimately your language and what you tell yourself will ultimately affect your behaviour and your actions. So I choose to. Such a powerful word. I choose to. I choose to improve my sleep. When I choose to do something, I take ownership of it. It's my responsibility. If I choose to do something, it makes I then will more likely going to do it. So whatever your goal is today, make sure you choose to do it, because you're more likely going to be able to achieve your goal. So the last thing I want to talk about before measure your behaviour. So we always talked about, I know Nick's done his bloods and he's got all these fantastic results and all the rest of it. That's really good. The only reason he's got those results is actually he's changed his behaviour. Rather than measuring the outcome itself, it's really important that we don't focus on the end goal, but focus on reinforcing our behaviour and making sure that we can measure success. So a great example, if you're going exercising and you want to improve your health, and we think about why you're doing that in the first place, it could be that you want to enjoy playing with your kids or grandkids or whatever it might be, and feel less discomfort. So we can measure that and just go, am I less out of breath? It could be that we're trying to get up and down out of a chair or off the floor in a pain-free manner. So rather than measuring that, we can measure our behaviour to make the differences. And a really simple way of looking at how we can implement changing behaviour is by using a diary. Really simply, we can use a nutritional diary to change our nutrition. We can use an exercise diary to change how frequently and how often we exercise. Don't focus on the outcome, but ultimately focus on your behaviour, because sooner or later that will get you where you want to be. That will make you happier and that will make you healthier. So 3 golden rules, don't forget those 3 golden rules, okay? Make sure we move all our joints for their full range of movements. Make sure that we overload the body, and we make sure that we can aid our recovery for the right nutrition and the right time. And more importantly, make sure that we're consistent with what we do. Think about your language, because that ultimately has an impact on your behaviour and your actions. And think about how you're going to measure your success today. So thank you very much for listening. I look forward to your questions. That's really easy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have got any questions for Dave? Yes.
I've a 16, 17-year-old son that
Yep.
practices virtually every day a sport.
Yep.
And I'm interested to know how much importance you place on protein powder for the recovery process.
Yeah, there's going to be some controversial opinions here, isn't there? Yeah, so protein powder, I know Juliet touched on protein. Ultimately, it is to help you aid your recovery. We do need protein. We're quite a protein deficient. We're getting more protein deficiency anyway in our diets. So really healthy fish is really important. Organic meats is essential. And I know a lot of athletes use protein powder. There are some that are very good and some that are not so good. Generally, a lot of people buy whey protein. Okay, that comes from milk, so a lot of people might have intolerances to milk, and that's just not appropriate. But you can get also plant-based proteins as well, so you can get the right ones. But it's typically what they add to the proteins, that protein shakes. So there's a lot of additives, and there's lots sometimes added sugar to make it taste nice, and a lot of colourings. So it's not actually sometimes the proteins that are bad, but the other things that they add to it.
Right, okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, so do you think the plant-based is better?
Yeah, there are some really good ones that are just, plant-based is generally better, but also the ones with less added stuff into it,
Right,
it's going to be much better, healthier.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yep.
Oh,
Carbohydrates.
Yep.
Do you think we should have less of them? I've been. Oh God. Sorry. I can't use that.
Just talk normally, I can hear you. I'll
Yeah,
reiterate.
just like what do you think? I mean, I've been doing this thing where I've been trying to exclude them and trying to sort of follow the Atkins diet. No, I'm not really.
Right. Oh, hang on. I think some people have answered it for me. Okay, so I don't really like the word diet personally. I like the word nutrition. We need to give our body nutrients to be able to continue our daily activities. What you're doing is taking away nutrients away from you. So carbohydrates are essential for your brain activity, also for your muscles as well. But the reason why obesity is such a problem, we've touched on it, is sugar.
Yeah.
And ultimately what carbohydrates do is that our body breaks down carbohydrates into sugar. So yes, there is a certain truth to what you just said.
Yeah.
Actually, as the pandemic is going on, eating loads and loads of carbohydrates can have an adverse effect, but you still need to have carbohydrates into your diet. And a lot of the best carbohydrates that you can get through your diet is through vegetables. Alright, so what you're saying to me is that I've cut out vegetables. So you,
No,
well, no,
actually.
sorry.
But yes, I do understand what you're saying. Yes, I mean it's more like it's that. But can you make yourself intolerant to carbohydrates by trying to exclude the main ones like bread, pasta, potatoes, rice?
So that question again.
So can you make yourself almost intolerant to carbohydrates by cutting them out? Particularly things like bread, pasta. The main bulking ones.
So I'm going to rephrase that a little bit. I don't think you can become intolerant to carbohydrates by cutting them out, but some carbohydrates you will have intolerance to.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we talked about that lining of the stomach earlier, and ultimately if we do have some people have other allergies and intolerances compared to others. So bread's a great example because there's wheat in there and there's gluten in there, which ultimately can affect our intolerances as well. So I don't think you can become intolerant if you take it out, but we can have intolerances that what we eat can affect us. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, fine.
Yeah, just the relationship between exercise and weight loss. My understanding of it is it's not actually a very good tool for weight loss. I mean, exercise is fantastically valuable in your life, but that it's a complete mistake to think that it's an effective weight loss tool.
Yeah, fantastic point, to be fair. Ultimately, I would personally recommend everyone here, if you are looking to lose weight, don't focus about exercise, focus about your nutrition. That is the gateway to your health, basically, is nutrition. Exercise, you're absolutely right, it's fantastic. You know, there's so many benefits to exercise, but if your main goal is to lose weight, then focus on your nutrition. Focus on changing your behaviours, increasing your water, increasing your veg. You know, those sort of aspects, if you can do it on a regular basis, you're more likely going to achieve feeling more energetic, looking better, and then feeling more confident as a result of changing your nutrition. But exercise is like I always say it's a power button. It helps you get there faster if you're doing the right nutrition. But try and just associate with exercise with weight loss and focus on nutrition, personally. That's my personal point of view. Anyway, does that help? Yeah. Any others? Got no seconds left, so
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.